So since my last video, I've been getting a ton of questions on what Maplestory classes to play for weekly bosser, and I figured I'd make a tier list to help people out. Just a few things to keep in mind. I haven't played each one of these classes like super extensively. Obviously, I've played all of them at least to 200, most of them to 210, but like I haven't actually bossed with all of them. And I either know people that main these classes that know a lot, or I've seen a lot of gameplay and can make a reasonable conclusion on the class. So something to keep in mind about this tier list is it's not just going to be like how strong they are. We're also going to be factoring in like how hard the nodes are, how good the training is, and how strong they are and how good they are at bossing. Because you know, when you make a weekly bosser, it's not about just like what class does the most damage. It's about everything, because you have to train it, you have to max the nodes, you have to make sure that it has a good kit for doing a lot of bosses in a row. So all these things are going to be factored in when I play something in a tier, and I'll go into it as I'm talking about the class. So yeah, another thing is, if you want this tier list, I made it myself because I couldn't find one with all the classes, an updated one, so I'll put a link in the description if I don't forget, if you want this tier list. Another thing that you'll notice is there's nothing below B, and that's because I really believe that literally every single class in the game, if you really want to play it and make it into a weekly boss, it's going to be good enough. Like, the thing about the differences between classes, most of it is at like a very high end game level. Like, that's the problem, but pretty much every single class is fine just for like early game, maybe mid game content. Like, they'll all get the job done very easily. Some obviously more than others, but all of them are good enough, so I wouldn't put anything below a B in my personal opinion. So yeah, the most important thing is to play a class that you like as a weekly bosser. Even if something is super strong and OP, if you don't like playing it, you're not going to want to play it. So that's the first thing when you're choosing a weekly bosser. Pick a class that you really have an interest in, you think it looks cool, or you just always want to try it. And that's the most important thing. So we'll start with Aran. So Aran is a class that I want to make into a weekly bosser at some point, but I haven't yet. The thing with Aran is this class is like actually so insane. Like, there aren't too many Aran mains out there. It's not like some overplayed class. But if you have seen like an endgame Aran, or even like a mid-game Aran, if one of your friends is an Aran main, this class just does so much damage, like a ridiculous amount. Like, first of all, like, the nodes aren't hard to get. Like, the trios aren't complicated. They're like about average. The burst is very, very strong, and the off damage is very strong. All in all, this class is very solid. I would probably put it either SS or S. I'll keep it in SS for now, and you know, we'll review later on if I want to change my mind. But yeah, Aran is definitely a really good pick. Super strong, super mobile, has an iframe, has a strong burst, has a class bind. And the other thing about weekly bossers is you want classes to have a bind. Now, in the future, this won't matter because of the Nova change. Every single class is going to have a bind on like a 2-minute cooldown, so it won't matter. But it's still good to have your own class bind, because when you're doing weekly bosses, you're doing multiple bosses in a row. So like, let's say you want to go from like, I don't know, Lotus to Damien, like, and you don't want to wait 2 minutes for your bind. Like, you could just enter right away and you'll have either class bind or your Nova. Or if you're like switching phases between bosses, like, you could just bind them back to back. So Aran has that, and I think the kit is, yeah, it's like damn near perfect for weekly bossing. All right, Ark is a class that I personally have for weekly bossing, and this class is I would put it in S tier, and here's why. So I don't think it's as good as Aran, just because of like a fundamental thing about Ark is the Spectre form. You're not in Spectre all the time. I think if Ark was like Spectre form 24/7, it would literally be like double S tier for sure. But when you're not in Spectre form, your damage is just kind of like way more trash, and like it's just not as cool. You don't really do as much. But yeah, even with not being in Spectre, Arc is still really strong. The nodes, however, are a little bit harder because ideally there's a lot of skills you want to press when you're playing Arc properly. You want to combo. A lot of people don't combo, but like, and especially if you're on a weekly boss, you're probably not going to be investing super hard into the class, like to learn how to like play it at a very high level. But yeah, if you do, like, you're gonna want to max the nodes that, like, even the little skills that don't do that much damage, you want to boost them too. So like, you're super min maxing. But yeah, Arc does a ton of damage, has a class bind. The burst is really strong, and it lasts a long time. The burst, like infinity spell, it's up for a while. It has short cooldown, big damage, like Ravenous Beast. I think it's what it's called. Yeah, Ravenous Beast is like such a crazy skill, and it's not even that long of a cooldown, and you could just kill like anything with it. Yeah, Arc is really good. It's very close to double S tier in my opinion, but I don't think it's quite there just because when you're not in Spectre, you're kind of just like dicking around. So Battle Mage, there's literally like only like one Battle Mage that I know, and like this class is really good, honestly. Like the burst is really strong, the DPS is really strong. I don't think the nodes are too hard either on Battle Mage. The mobility is good if you know how to like be mobile on the class. You know how to like chain skills together. Telecasting with the lightning teleport. I know some people like don't know how to do it properly, but if you do it properly, it's really good damage. It doesn't have a class bind, which kind of cucks it a little bit, because you know you want your Urda Nova. I mean, you're gonna get Urda Nova, so it doesn't matter. At least I don't think it has a class bind. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Yeah, Battle Mage is pretty solid. I'll probably put it in A. I don't think it's as good as Arc or Aran, but this class is definitely valid. Blaster is actually so OP. Like, there's probably not a lot of people that know Blaster mains, but if you've ever seen like crazy blasters, they do so much damage, like an insane amount of damage. But at the same time, like this class is like pretty hard to like really min max on if you're just like a weekly bosser and like you're lazy, you just want to like do your weeklies and go. I don't think the nodes are too terrible. What else on Blaster? I don't think it has a class bind. The burst is 4 minutes, I believe, or it's like a 2-minute class, which isn't like too bad. The consistency is there, and that's another thing with weekly bossers is you want consistency, because like I said before, you're doing a bunch of bosses back to back, so you want your damage to always be like relatively the same throughout. You do like burst is nice, but like if you're just burst and then you're waiting for your burst between bosses, like that's just such a waste of time. But yeah, I think Blaster, I'm debating giving it an S, honestly. I'm just gonna put an A for now. Blaster I don't know too much about. I've seen some stuff about them, but yeah, I feel like I don't know if it's as good as Arc for weekly bossing, because Arc just like blows shit up so fast. Blaster might do that too, actually. I'm pretty sure Blaster isn't as yet. I've seen Blasters just run through bosses like without trouble. Cadena, I'm pretty sure the nodes are relatively difficult for Cadena because there's just so many skills you want to use to keep up your final damage. But so that's like pretty deterring for a lot of new players who don't have a ton of nodes. The bossing is definitely insane though. Like the damage is super high, and the only thing that cucks them is they're pretty squishy. Like if you're bad, like this isn't the class for you, because you're probably gonna end up dying, or you might need buff freezers, which is the worst thing on a weekly boss. You don't want to get buff freezers because it's counterintuitive. Like you're wasting money when when you make a weekly boss just to get money. I think Blaster, if you're a really good Blaster main, has a class bind too, which is an iframe. If you're a really good Blaster main, I think this class low-key might be double S. Not Blaster, I mean Cadena main. A low-key might be a double S tier, but I'm just going to drop it down to S because I got to be more realistic. Like, the nodes are bad. Actually, it might be even A because of the nodes. Nodes are not something to sleep on. Oh, I actually forgot about training. I forgot about talking about training for these classes. So we'll go back. So Aran training is average. Like, it could full clear maps pretty easily. Arc training is really good, actually. Very good, easy time training. Blaster training is not the best, but it's workable. But I think the bossing on Blaster is actually super good, so I'm gonna keep it an S. Bam training is super good. It's one of the best classes to train on. Dude, that actually might bump it up to an S. Yeah, I would put Battle Mage up there. And this class is only getting stronger like every patch, so Cadena training is, yeah, Cadena. I think Cadena has too much holding it back on second thought, because the training is pretty bad for your hands, and the bossing is pretty bad for your hands, and the nodes are pretty bad, but the bossing is super strong and the kit is super good, so I'm gonna keep it an A, which is like saving it from B. Yeah, what was I thinking? Double S. Evan. So Evan is a class that I have played extensively. I have a very strong weekly bosser with Evan, and I think this class is fucking trash. like it has pretty good consistent damage, but I had to overfund my Evan so much just to be like as good as another decent weekly bosser. And even then, like, just the way Evan works, like Worm King and Elemental Radiance, like they're like skills that you actually have to like place down and aim. And like if a boss is like moving, like let's say Damien for example, he's like always moving around and you just miss those skills, you literally just gonna do shit damage until they're back up, and it's just terrible. I wouldn't recommend Evan, to be honest. The nodes are alright, pretty average. The training on Evan is really good. Like, it's very easy to train, but similar to Cadena, there's a lot of buttons, a lot of canceling you have to do on Evan. It's hard to really play at a high level, and it gets tiring on your hands when you train. Like, I remember training my Evan, like I could only do like 4 hours before I'm just like sick of training it. Yeah, despite everything, like Evan's alright, but I think other classes are just way better. Yeah, I would keep it in the B tier. Illium, I honestly don't know too much about Illium. Like, who plays Illium, man? Like, let's be real. Like, I literally only know one Illium, and I don't even know them like that. Like, but there's no way the class could be that bad, right? So I'm gonna keep it in B. I think Illium low-key has a bind too, which is good. Kaiser, Kaiser, I haven't played too much, but I know the training isn't the worst thing in the world. It could be better. The bossing is really good on Kaiser for a weekly bosser. It's very consistent damage. Yeah, just the nodes I don't think are too bad either. And but when I say too bad for nodes, I mean like you probably only need like 2 sets of trios. That's like the average for most classes, just like 2 sets of trios. And by 2 sets of trios, I mean like you're boosting 6 skills in total. Yeah, I don't think Kaiser's too bad. Mechanic. The thing about Mechanic, I'm gonna keep it in B, honestly. I've seen some like crazy mechanics out there, and they do so much damage on their burst, but I don't think their off burst is like that crazy, which is like more important when it comes to weekly bossing, your off burst. Also, their training is really hard, and by hard I mean you need a lot of funding to get like good rates, and at that point like you're funding so much onto this class when you could just play like Aran and do everything Blaster can but better for weekly bossing. Not Blaster, why do I keep saying Blaster for everything? Mechanic. Yeah, Mercedes. I'm pretty sure this class just got buffed and came as T, where their cooldowns are more like aligned, I think. Merc is a burst class, and just by default, burst class isn't that good. And the other thing about Merc is most people don't actually combo and play Merc well, which is like cucking yourself even more. So I think Merc is also B tier. The nodes, I think the nodes are kind of hard on Merc too. I think you need like 3 sets of trios, I think. And the training on Merc kind of sucks too. I think Merc is actually like the worst one so far, I'm not gonna lie. The burst is pretty good, but like off burst, if you're not even comboing, like you're just holding like Ishtar's ring, like what are you doing, dude? Like this class fucking sucks. Pathfinder's a weekly buster that I have and that I recommend to people because I'll put this class in S tier, honestly. The damage isn't too high, but Pathfinder's kit is super good. Like you're very mobile, you have very consistent damage. And the training is actually so brain dead. It's so easy to train a Pathfinder, like all the way up to 250, honestly. It does a lot of damage to mobs. You have a ton of AoE. The nodes aren't bad at all. 2 sets of trios, that's what I use on my Pathfinder. Yeah, I would definitely recommend Pathfinder. Phantom as a weekly bosser, I'm pretty sure this is like similar to Merc. I'm pretty sure like this class has a really good burst. Their consistent damage isn't anything too crazy. It's good because you also have a hurricane, and when you're on a weekly bosser, you're not max attack speed. So hurricanes are actually really good for weekly bossers since you're hitting your optimal damage anyways. I don't think it has a bind, but it doesn't really matter because they're Urda Nova. I don't really know what the nodes are for Phantom. I think they're on the more difficult side. I'm pretty sure. So I would keep Phantom down here, to be honest. I wouldn't really recommend a Phantom as a weekly bosser. Shade. I think I would put Shade in S tier, just straight up. I know the nodes aren't too bad. The damage is super consistent. It has a class bind. The training is very good. And it's very easy to play as well. Like it's very easy to master, and that's what you're kind of looking for in weekly bossers, because you know, it's not your main. You're not gonna be like spending so much time trying to learn and min-max all the deep mechanics of the class. And Shade is just like a very good all-around simple class, similar to a Pathfinder. Wild Hunter, I'm pretty sure his class is fucking shit. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Literally no Wild Hunter I know likes their class, and it's not even like a meme. Like, and I've seen it for myself. Like this class just it just doesn't do damage, like straight up. And I'm pretty like the nodes don't even matter. Like I don't think the nodes are too terrible either. The training is like not even that good either. The bossing isn't even that good. Yeah, this class really isn't good. Wind Archer. Okay, the thing about Wind Archer is it's actually really brain dead. Like, you have your stupid gem that just like aggroes the boss and gives you like, you just like don't take any damage. You also have your like your 5th job shield that just makes you like invincible. And you have a lot of consistent damage with your hold down skill, your hurricane. But yeah, the mobility isn't even that bad either because of your wind walk. The only thing that's holding back Wind Archer is I think it has a lot of nodes to max, and what was the other thing? The damage isn't that high. Like it's consistent, but it's not that high, so you're probably gonna be funding your Wind Archer more than usual just to get the job done. So I would put it like an A, because I think it's like better than these classes because the bossing kit is really good, but I don't think it's as good as the ones up here. Zero. Dude, I think Zero's pretty good actually. They have like a bind that just like keeps stacking on top of each other. So the boss just straight up like doesn't move for like 40 seconds or something stupid. and the damage is not crazy, but it's good enough for like a weekly bosser. But yeah, the training is really, really, really good on Zero though. So I would definitely put it in the A tier. It's not that hard to play either. Adele. Adele I would put in double S tier, honestly. And it's not even just like a meme, like, haha, Adele's so OP. Like, Adele's not even, like, hot take, I don't think Adele really is that OP. Like, I've played an Adele at, like, a very high level. Liberating one soon. And, like, the fact that the class, like, doesn't have its same iframe anymore, like, technically, like, you could still iframe, but it's nowhere what it used to be. The class also has just been getting nerfed since release. Although, like, it is still super strong. Like, that's why it's in double S tier. But I don't think it's, like... This is, like, a completely separate subject. Like, I just think people think Adele is way more OP than it actually is. Adele is still super, super good as a weekly bosser, though. Like, Class Bind, Ruin is a very short cooldown, high damage skill, has a very, very big burst. The off damage is super strong with Cleave and the squigglies, whatever they're called. I forgot what they're called. The squigglies that come out of Cleave. What else about Adele? The nodes are standard, 2 sets of trios. Obviously it's a warrior, so there's a lot of legion blocks that help it. What else with Adele? Yeah, this is a class that I have personally. The training is really easy as well. Like, you could brain dead train all the way to 250. Keeping up swords is kind of annoying, and yeah, Adele is definitely double S tier. This class is very, very strong. Okay, so this is our first explorer, right? Fire poison. Yeah. So okay, so when it comes to explorers, we're gonna talk about explorers now, and we're gonna talk about explorers 6 months later when we get the Destiny update, because it obviously matters. And this video's, I'm gonna try to keep it future proofed. Yeah, so fire poison right now is actually like so stupid. Like, you just do so much damage like every like 30 seconds, honestly. And it's like a stupid amount too. It's like, and it just destroys bosses, honestly. The training is not that good though. And so it kind of balances it out that way. But even then, like, the training's good enough if you really just want to stick with fire poison. And the thing about explorers is you could always just swap. Like, what's stopping you from swapping just to train? And then when you're at your desired level, you just play whatever bossing class you want. So honestly, like, I'm debating putting fire poison in the SS, but I'm gonna keep it in S just because the training isn't amazing. And when you're playing an explorer and you swap, that's a ton of nodes you gotta remax again. So that cucks every explorer a little bit, just because if they want to swap, like, you're gonna be redoing your nodes. And the thing is, like, after the rework, like, it's still really good. So it would definitely be an S tier. It's definitely a step above. Ice Lightning. The thing about Ice Lightning is, yeah, it's not double S tier. It has a class bind, so it's better than Fire Poison. The mobbing is better than Fire Poison. You know, nodes aren't too terrible either. The damage is super, super high in Fire Poison. The only thing that, not Fire Poison, on Ice Lightning. The only thing that kind of cucks Ice Lightning is your Bolt Barrage. Like, just the way it works, how it's like optimal damage, like, in the corner. Even though, like, it still does a lot of damage. Your other skill that's like a hold down also does like a stupid amount of damage. I'm debating on the double S tier for Ice Lightning, honestly. Honestly, it might be double S tier. I'm going to keep it up there. I think Ice Lightning is actually super cracked. And then even after the revamp, like, their mobbing and animations just got better. And these mages get an up jump too. It also has an iframe. Yeah, I think it actually might be double S tier, like on par with Adele and Aran for weekly bossing. IL, and then if anything, you could always swap. Beast Tamer. Not many people really play this class. I know that the class is pretty underrated. Like it's not like just like a shitty. It's not like just like a shit meme class like it used to be. It's actually like valid. Like I've seen Beast Tamers liberate. Like it's not like if you fund a BT, it's a dead end. Um, so I would probably put it just like an A tier. I don't know too much about it, but just the fact that like it's not as bad as it used to be and it keeps getting buffed is it's probably like better than these classes. Um, Bishop, Bishop is actually valid. I'm gonna put it in S tier, and hear me out. So like right now, Bishop isn't like the craziest class in terms of like damage output, but the kit is super good if you're like trash at this game, honestly. Like you just have so much healing and you have so many buffs, and like a side a side buff to Bishop is like if you ever want to party with your friends on your weekly boss, like you're just so valuable because of being a Bishop. And then even after the revamp, um they just gain so much more damage because you could use like your bossing skills in your support mode. At least I think that's what they changed as well. Like you could just use all your skills, which makes it so much stronger. So I would put Bishop in S tier. I know a person who actually has a Bishop Bosser Mule, and I'm pretty sure he likes it. So yeah, the nodes aren't too bad on Bishop, but keep in mind like if you're ever gonna swap between these mages, like you gotta redo the nodes. So oh, actually, I just remembered Bishop training is kind of like dog shit though. So if you want to like train a Bishop, yeah, it's going down a notch just because of the training. Just straight up, like if you want to just train as a Bishop, you're kind of inting yourself. Like, yeah, sure, like the #1 GMS is like a Bishop right now, I think, at the time of recording this. But like, that dude also trains like a million hours a day. But whatever. Blaze Wizard. This class is so sad, dude. I can't wait for the Cygnus revamp. Like Blaze Wizard needs help, and it's not that good. Like the damage isn't there. You're gonna be overfunding this way too much just to get the job done. The nodes aren't too terrible. The training is really good though on Blaze Wizard. It is very, very good. There used to be Blaze Wizard farmers back in the day. Fun fact, if you guys didn't know that, it used to be actual low-key meta. If you had a Blaze Wizard farmer, you can make cracked rates. Should I bump it up to A then? Nah, the bossing, at the end of the day, the bossing is what weighs the most. It's like the heaviest factor in all this. The nodes and the training also matters a lot, but at the end of the day, like if you want to like look at your weekly bosses in like a timeline, like only the beginning funding and training is like the hard part, but in the very long term, like all you're gonna be doing is bossing every week, so that's what matters the most. And Blaze Wizard bossing is just not it, man. Bowmaster. So Bowmaster right now is kind of trash. Like the damage is consistent, which is good, but other than that, like what's it even got for it? Like the training is okay, the mobility is like not that good, the damage isn't that good, so I would put Bowmaster down here too. Buck. Buck is a class that I personally have as weekly bosser. I would say this class is pretty weak overall. Like a lot of people say Buck suck, and it's for a reason. I think Buck right now would be pretty low, like a B. I think it's super fun to play, and the training is really, really good. The nodes are standard, just like 2 sets of trios, but I think the bossing is pretty lackluster, honestly. I don't really like the whole energy system. The damage isn't that high. It is consistent though, which is good for weekly bossing, but the damage it's not that high, so it's whatever. But Buck after revamp is actually pretty crazy, and I did see from a what's his name, like a Nucleus video. He's like a Buck main, Nucleolus, something like that. That guy's legit. If you ever see his channel, like he's pretty cool. He was talking about how like Buck got nerfed overall in terms of damage, which sucks, but at the same time, like I think the bossing and the training got so much better, and the class overall is better to play. So honestly, I would bump that up one just because of the revamp. Because at the end of the day, for weekly bosses, like you don't need like a crazy amount of damage to do your bosses, so the funding isn't that hard. Cannonier or Cannon Master. I feel like this class kind of sucks for weekly bossing, honestly, because like the damage is consistent, and with your big ass rockets, like it's cool, but like if you miss your rockets, like you're kind of just like shitting the bed. But I think the nodes aren't too bad. The training is pretty good too. Any pirate training is automatically really good because they have luck at the dice, or roll the dice or something like that. Lucky 7, I think it's called. Um, yeah, automatically like pirates training is super good, but you got to keep in mind that I don't think the damage on Cannon Master is that good. But at the end of the day, you could swap, so I'll just put it down here. Corsair, I think this class is actually low key OP, like S tier OP. Especially like right now, Corsair is like alright. It's just like a standard. There's like about like middle of the pack damage. The nodes aren't bad. The training is pretty good. The playstyle is fun and all that stuff. But after the revamp, they got like so much stronger. Like straight up, like I think like over 20% like final damage stronger, which is like so much damage. All their skills got like bigger hitboxes and whatnot, and like they just got so much stronger. So I think, especially after the revamp, this class is actually gonna be crazy. Like I might even swap my Buck to a Corsair, even though I really like Buck. But ultimately, like Corsair is pretty cool too, and the bossing is cool. Not double SS. Dark Knight. I think Dark Knight is pretty good. I wouldn't put it down here. Would I put? No, I would put it in the A tier. The damage is very, very consistent on Dark Knight, which is obviously huge for weekly bossing. The training is really good for you know, Explorer Hero, Explorer Warrior. Yeah, the nodes aren't too bad, but the only thing that sucks about Dark Knight is the whole final pack thing where you have to die to like do your burst. But at the end of the day, like, it doesn't really matter that much. I guess like in Lomian or like a slime boss, if you really want to fund it that high up, it would kind of suck. Yeah, overall, it's pretty good. Dawn Warrior, I think Dawn Warrior is super good. It's definitely underrated. The damage is very high and consistent for weekly bossing. I don't think it'll be double S tier. I think it's almost double S tier, but I'm gonna keep it in S tier. Yeah, the training is good. The bossing damage is high on a weekly bosser. It's not too hard to play. The nodes are good too. Yeah, it's almost double S tier, I'd say. I think it's missing that, you know, that little bit extra OP. Demon Avenger. The thing about Demon Avenger is like, yeah, this class fucking sucks, honestly. But in terms of like training and doing weekly bosses, it's not too bad. It sucks at like a really high level when you're comparing to like the best of the best. It's like straight trash. When it comes to like weekly bossing, it's not too bad. Like the kit is pretty good. Like you're pretty much invincible. Like you're never gonna die. So if you like suck at this game, this is the class for you. So I would definitely put it in A. Yeah, I think it's better than these bottom ones for weekly bossing. I am kind of biased. Like I have my Evan and I put it down here, but I don't know. Evan just fucking sucks. Yeah, DA is not too bad. Demon Slayer automatic double S tier. This is probably one of the best bossing mules, if not the best one in my honest opinion. This class just literally has everything, like just straight up. Probably, like in my honest opinion, I think this class is more OP than Kanna. Like straight up Demon Slayers, like insanely strong. Like they just do a stupid amount of damage. They have so many iframes. They have healing. They have a class bind on a very short cooldown. They have a crazy burst. They have a hold down skill. They don't need crit rate. They don't need ID. They have like drop rate buff. Like, what doesn't Demon Slayer have? Straight up, they have gliding, they have a TP behind the boss, they have, you know, regular flash jump, they have crazy, like, training, and if you know, TP train on Demon Slayer, it's even easier. Um, yeah, Demon Slayer is probably the best class so far that we've done. DB also double S tier. DB very similar to Demon Slayer. Very short cooldown iframes, very big damage every like 10 seconds with Blade Tornado and Blades of Destiny. The thing about DB mobbing is like people meme DB mobbing, but it's actually not that bad at all. Like throw a cooldown hat on your DB and you're casting Blades of Destiny like every like 10 seconds. That's a full map attack. And if you know how Blades of Destiny works, like it's a following hitbox. Like as you're casting it and jumping around, like the hitbox moves around with you. So like you could really full clear a map with it. And you know, with your what's the spinny skill called? Blade Fury? Yeah, Blade Fury with the new Haunted Edge, their new V skill, like your mobbing is pretty good. I used to have a DB, but I swapped it for Night Lord. And I don't remember why I did that, to be honest with you. Like DB weekly bossing is so good. I might swap to DB back one of these days, but yeah. DB is super solid. The nodes aren't too bad. Yeah, the damage is super high too. It's got that extra OP-ness. Hayato, this is the class I main. This class I know the most about. Let's see. Hayato has the worst nodes in the game. Straight up, needs to be fixed, needs to be solved. We need a rework on Hayato's nodes. It's about 1,000 nodes average just to get a perfect trio on Hayato. It's literally the worst thing in the game. It's the biggest deterrent for any new Hayato I've ever seen. Like, I've been in the community for a very long time, and it's such a recurring theme. Hayato nodes, Hayato nodes. It's like the worst possible thing. Well, this isn't like about a rant. This isn't like a rant video about Hayato, but other than the nodes, this class is actually like so good. But then you have your other problem is you have bugs. Like, Hayato training is probably one of the easiest in the whole game. Like, literally all of your skills are like full map attacks and genuine full map attacks. Like, you're gonna be blowing up the map consistently, and you could train in almost any map just because of how big of a reach you have. If you ever play this on a very high level, you'll know that the class can pretty much get out of any situation and any boss. You have the kit to do pretty much anything that you want. The damage is very high. You have a Hurricane too as your main bossing skill, so you don't need to invest in any attack speed to do optimal damage. What else about Hayato? The bugs that Hayato has. So hopefully, like, these bugs get resolved, and if you're watching in this video in the late future, hopefully these bugs aren't a thing anymore and Hayato's good. But two specific bugs that really like cuck Hayato players. If you're ever training a Hayato and your Phantom Blade stops working, Phantom Blade, if you don't know, is like their main mobbing skill. It straight up just doesn't do damage because of a bug sometimes, and then you have to let the stacks drop to like fix it, which is really frustrating and annoying to deal with. The other one is you memory leak a lot on this class. Like, I hope when we get the 64-bit update it's better, but when I mean you memory leak a lot, like, you're literally going to be restarting your game every 2 hours when you play this class. Some people like even more often than that. This isn't really a good class if you have ping issues, because the memory leaking, from what I've seen, is like more severe with like ping, or like if you have like a shit PC. But honestly, Hayato would be double S tier if the nodes weren't the most trash in the whole game. And by trash, I mean like it takes so many nodes to get your perfect trios on this class, like a ridiculous amount on average. It would be double S tier if the nodes weren't trash and the bugs were fixed, but I think I'm going to keep it an S tier despite the nodes and despite the bugs, just because of how strong the class is and how easy the training is. I think it deserves an S tier. I mean, I might be biased, but whatever. Hero, Hero is a lot of people's go-to bossing mule because this class just excels in bossing. Like, it's what it's designed for. Like, it's got very, very high off burst damage. The burst is insane. The kit for bossing is really good. Low cooldown iframe. It doesn't have a class mind. And you know what I realized? DB is the only class up here that doesn't have a class mind. But just because of how strong DB is, like, consistently, it deserves to be up here. Anyways, back to Hero. Yeah, it doesn't have a class mind. The other thing about Hero is currently the mobbing is pretty trash. It might be one of the worst in the game, if not the worst. So training a hero is very, very rough. Like it's probably like 2 times harder to get a hero to 275 than it is for a Hayato to get 275 straight up. But after the revamp, the training, the mobbing gets way, way better, and the mobility gets way, way better. So I think Hero is an S tier as well. It's almost a double S tier, but it's missing that little bit of extra. Like the off damage isn't as good as like these, and yeah, it's definitely an S tier. The nodes are pretty easy too on Hero. Ho Young, definitely a double S tier. This class is like, I could go on another rant about it too. This class just has everything. Like, one of the best iframes in the game. You could hold it down up to 20 seconds, or you could hold it just for like a moment, and you know the cooldown is based off of how long you hold it. The consistent damage is very, very high. The burst is extremely high. The nodes aren't too difficult. The training is pretty good. Just look at Kain, man. Dude's, he's 288 as of making this video. What else about Ho Young? It literally just can't do anything bad. It has a class bind. It has Dark Sight. Everybody knows Dark Sight's OP. What else? Ho Young just does everything, honestly. It's just, that's what I realized with these classes up here. Like, they just do everything. And they're the other thing about these classes is that they're not just good weekly bosses. They're just like one of the best classes in the game in general. A little bit less for DB, but the others are like some of the top classes. Jet, I'm tempted to put in double S tier, but I don't know enough about Jet to like give it a solid double S tier. But I know for sure it's at least an S tier. Like, it's not a meme class anymore. Like, Jet actually does so much damage, and it has very good consistent damage too. I don't think the nodes are too terrible. The training is very, very good on Jet too. And yeah, it's not too hard to play. Kain, I think Kain is a very cool class, but yeah, it's not as good as the others. Like, its iframe is kind of weird. Like that floating thing, you can't really do anything while you're in iframe. The damage is not too crazy high, but it's good enough. The nodes aren't bad. Yeah, Kain is solid, but it's nothing too crazy. Kanna, of course, double S tier, not even trying to make a joke. And I know, like, on literally like every tier video, Kanna gets like the highest tier. I think like Demon Slayer is better than Kanna in terms of like wheelie bossing, or just as a class in general. Kanna, like, do I even need to say anything? Like, the consistent damage is super high, the burst is super high, you have literally 2 binds, plus you could get Erden Nova if you really want to. The training is arguably the best training in the whole game. The nodes aren't too difficult, 2 sets of trios on Kanna. What can't Kanna do? You know what I mean? Same as the other double S tiers, just like what can't they do? Like, Kanna just does everything super, super good. So yeah. Lara is actually a class that I didn't expect myself to play, but I actually got it to 220 and funded it quite a bit, and it's actually very strong. Like, it's a very good class, except it's, I don't know, in my opinion, I think it's very boring. Like, it gets old really, really quick. Like, you just keep using the stupid like veins to summon your like weather shit. But yeah, I think Lara is definitely valid. It's got very good support skills too. It's definitely better than these at the bottom. The nodes are very easy on Lara. Actually, I remember they were like super easy to get. The training is like super, super good. Like, the mobbing on Lara is crazy. So I would definitely put an A. Lumi, I'm like, no memes, I'm tempted to put Lumi in double S tier, honestly, for like a weekly bosser. Like, let's see, what can't Lumi do? Training is super good with Reflection and Gate. Bossing is super good with Ender and Conduit. Equilibrium has a short cooldown. Ender's literally like a hold down skill. You have Freud's Wisdom, you have Ethereal Form, you have your Class Bind, that's an iframe, you have a heal. The only thing that's cucking Lumi a little bit is mobility, and the nodes are easy too. Apocalypse does good damage off burst, off equilibrium. Reflection is alright off equilibrium. The only thing that's a little like trash about Lumi is just like, you know, you have to charge your equilibrium, but that's not like enough to like bump it down. Like, what can't Lumi do honestly in a weekly bosser? Like, just straight up, it does a ton of damage. Baptism, you just turn it on and it does like a stupid amount of damage. Their Lumi orbs, whatever it's called, the stupid orbs does a lot of damage too. Yeah, Lumi I think is one of the best weekly bossers too, and it's very, very easy to train. Yeah, Marksman, this class is trash. Honestly, like the whole mechanic of being far away from the boss to do optimal damage is so outdated, and thank god it's gonna get a revamp, so that won't be a thing anymore. I think even after the revamp, the class isn't even that like crazy. Like, its split shot is pretty good, but it's not like the coolest thing. Not cool, doesn't matter. It's not like the strongest thing ever, but it's still valid. Like, I think Marksman would be like a high tier B, honestly, like almost A. But I think the A tiers are better. Mihail, hot take. I think Mihail's actually like really good. Honestly, like it's at least A tier. The nodes aren't bad. The training is actually so good on Mihail. Like, I feel like people who complain about Mihail training don't know how to play Mihail. Like, literally just spam your freaking Royal Guard every 4 seconds and you'll get a FMA. You actually like can't die in this class. The damage is consistent. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's a solid pick. Night Lord. So Night Lord is one of the classes I actually play a lot. I think Night Lord is pretty trash for most people, like on weekly bossing, because the only reason my Night Lord is good is because I've overfunded it so much, so it just melts everything off burst because of just how, like, it's just very, very strong. But if I were to have like a very standard like weekly bosser and I was a Night Lord, because I remember when I was a Night Lord and I was weaker, like it was so annoying to do my weekly, so that's why I swapped to DB for a while until I got stronger, and then I went back to Night Lord. Because when you're not strong on Night Lord, when you're not strong on Night Lord, this class, like, you're just waiting for burst. Like, the burst is quite literally like 20 times your main damage, and it's just not, it's like honestly not even worth attacking off burst if you're weak on Night Lord. So I think Night Lord, the nodes are easy, the training is very, very good on Night Lord, the mobbing is very good, and then even after the revamp, the training gets even better. You have a dash that gives you Dark Side a little bit. Dark Side gets better as well after the revamp. The bossing gets stronger after revamp too, I believe. So I would definitely put it in the A tier. For most people, they won't really fund their Night Lord that hard, so I would recommend them swap to DB. It's just better. Nightwalker. Nightwalker's like, it's like Night Lord but worse, honestly. Like, it's the same thing. Like, you have your burst. Your burst is an iframe though. Night Lord doesn't have an iframe, so it's got that on it. The mobbing on Nightwalker is about the same. It's good. It's not like the craziest thing in the world though. It's good if you're strong too, so I would definitely put it here along with Night Lord. It's better than these down here because Nightwalker's damage is really good. The only thing is, like, if you don't know, or like if you're not used to jump attacking, or you don't want to, like, you're just cucking yourself so much damage. But I think overall Nightwalker is good. Paladin, yeah, Paladin also over here. It's just like a very like average class from what I've seen. Like, the damage is like average, nodes are average, training is pretty good. It's definitely above average. The bossing is good too. Like, you're not gonna die on a Paladin, honestly. Like, it's a very beginner friendly class. It's very easy to play. You have a ton of like survivability and everything. So yeah. Shadower, Shadow Art, I'm tempted honestly to put it into the double S tier with dual blade. I'll keep it an A for now, but it's really close to the double S tier, seriously, because Shadow Art right now is like very good like DPS. It's got like a low cooldown burst skill with Sonic Blow. I think it's called Sonic Blow. Assaulter is crazy for mobility. You know, Maceal Explosion is not that bad. Yeah, Shadower, the Trick Blade is a really good, like, it's a really good one tap for like weaker bosses. But the thing about Shadower that brings it almost to double S tier is after the revamp, this class gets so much crazier. Like, honestly, I'm even tempted to swap my, I know I said I'd swap to DB, but I'm tempted to swap my Nettlers to Shadower too after the revamp, just because of how much better it got. Like, they got like 20% final damage stronger too. So Shadower might be double S tier, so yeah, it's close between S and double S. So yeah, Thunderbreaker's class is trash. Can't wait for the Cygnus revamp. I know they fixed things recently in the KMS update, but regardless, like the class has like no damage. It's very consistent, which is good for weekly bossing, but it's one of those classes like if you want to make it work, like you'll make it work. You'll get it strong enough, and it'll be fun. But for the average, I wouldn't recommend. Kinesis, I think Kinesis is valid. The training is really good. The nodes aren't bad. What else? The bossing is good. You have like that dodecahedron. I think that's what the shape is technically. Everybody calls it the cube, but I think it's technically a dodecahedron, 20-sided shape. That thing can be kind of annoying because it like moves slow, and if the boss is like going all over the place like Damien, like it kind of sucks. But I think Kinesis has a class bind too, which is really good. So yeah, I would keep Kinesis up there. Xenon is actually no, I'll keep Xenon down here. The training is good, mobility is good. The only thing is like it's like the DPS is like alright, but it's really about the Omega Blaster. And like once Omega Blaster's like on cooldown, you're kind of just like shooting at the boss non-stop. It's not that good. But yeah, Xenon is solid. It's not definitely not as bad as all of them. I think looking at this list, it's alright. I'm probably gonna get like a lot of people arguing with me in the comments because of this list, but I don't know if you've made it this far. Thanks for watching, and just keep in mind like this is my opinion. Like I don't know everything about these classes. I know enough because I've been playing for a very long time. I keep up with like a lot of different players, and yeah, I hope this helped you make your decision for weekly bossing. These classes are all insane. Like I would definitely recommend picking one of them up if you find them interesting. But keep in mind the best class for you is the one you think is the most fun and is what you're interested in, because ultimately, like I said in the beginning of this video, any class will work as a weekly bosser. Literally any one of them is good enough. That's why there's nothing under B. Like B is good. Like it's not like a failure. Like it's definitely above average. They're all very good at weekly bossing. It's just some are a lot better than others. So yeah, I hope this helped you guys out, and let me know which classes you pick and why. And if you have any like opinions that differ with mine, let me know, and we could talk about it. Just don't you know, harass each other. If you know, if you have any toxic thoughts, just I don't know, look in the mirror and tell yourself you're literally talking to a computer right now. But yeah, peace.